What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to the WWE SummerSlam 2024 Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show, coming to you from Smark at Moment Smack Talk. We got the podcast breakdown the way that we normally are going to be doing things. If you don't know who I am Tony Mango, as you can tell by the screen below and all that. Hoping that, of course, my audio and video is working well. Of course, let me know if that is not the case. Recently had an update with Skype that ruined a bunch of things. Recently had an update with OBS that ruined a bunch of things. So settings might be a little bit wonky today. I'm not entirely sure. Let me know that in the live chat, which I see we have Peter. I see we've got Pliskin as well. What's up, guys? Make sure, of course, if you are listening to this live, that you take advantage of the super chats and that you join in on the discussion along as we go through this whole podcast and this whole pay-per-view and all that other kind of, all that good stuff. And if you're listening to this after the fact, you could always leave your comments below on YouTube. Make sure you hit that like button as well, no matter where you are. And double check that you are subscribed. Now, if you are listening to this live and you are not able to chat, you can only do that if you are subscribed. So keep that in mind too. Keep in mind some of the other things that we normally break down here too. Let me bring these things up before I forget about them. These marketplace options, of course, if you do have the spare change to help us keep this thing going, the website and the podcast, and the same thing for fanboys too. Click on the thanks button, do the super chats, join the Patreon or YouTube channel membership on whether it's the $1 tier, the $5 tier, the Darkcast tier, the Pick Your Poison tier, all that good stuff. It's greatly appreciated. And TeePublic and Redbubble is where you can pick up merchandise for Smark at Moment, Fanboys Anonymous, and Mango Tees as well. And naturally, I'm hoping that people are chatting it up in the Discord server along with this. So, if we don't talk about everything here, then we'll talk about it there or another place and lots of different places, Facebook, Twitter, and so on and so forth. See Michael Patrick's in the chat too. So we are going to break this down. If you, of course, did not watch the pay-per-view and you don't want to know what happened, then this isn't really a spoiler. It's already happened now at this point, but you might not necessarily want to listen to the podcast where we're going to break down the results and stuff. But if you don't care or you want to know what I have to say regardless of it or whatever, that's all the more reason for you to be here. And we thank you for being here. Of course, Rob and Callum are not able to join in. Rob is going to be doing the press conference stuff and trying to keep in mind all those news things that get posted. Callum not watching this pay-per-view and stuff. We'll get his thoughts on the results later on. Before we get super deep into the specifics about this and all, I'm going to be asking, of course, throughout this whole thing, what did you guys think? So generally speaking, what did you feel about this pay-per-view? Are you on the positive side of things like I am? I predominantly really like this pay-per-view. I think that it was a little run-of-the-mill in some ways and kind of predictable, but I think that they did the things that they needed to do. And I didn't dislike any of the matches, really. None of them are fantastic. It's not going to be match of the year candidates or anything, but I think that they did the job. And I think if you didn't watch the 3-hour pre-show, that helps. I had it on in the background and I was playing Undercooked instead, because that is way more fun than paying attention to all these different things. But I see Daniel in chat said, I give this showing a B-, not the worst, but some stinkers. Which ones would you classify as stinkers? B+ on Michael Patrick. Pliskin says he likes it. I like solid pay-per-view. Not going to go down in history as anything really other than that's the pay-per-view where X and Y and Z happened, like title changes and the big return at the end of this. But I don't think that we're going to really see you got to go back and rewatch this match for any of it, to be honest. That's okay. I see that Nia and Tiffany Stratton are currently doing the press conference, and Nia's got that super big crown that she has, that really tall, spiky one. Very cool design, by the way, better than the other one. And I guess that's part of the reason why they gave her the title, is so she could have a whole new setup with that. I agree with Michael about hoping that Fatu is okay. Hoping that was just sort of damn, that hurts, and then he's okay after that. Last 3 matches were the highlights of the night. I think it was kind of spread out for me. The matches themselves, maybe that they were the best 3 matches, but then I liked elements of what happened beforehand. So, overall, this was just an easy watch. Maybe that's a good way for me to put that too. Yeah, Daniel, and we got Emilio. Of course, greatly appreciated to have you guys here. Let's start getting into some of these things. So 3 hours of the pre-show, the countdown to SummerSlam. As far as I'm aware, nothing at all happened in there. I did not hear anything ahead of time that like felt like it was newsworthy or noteworthy or anything. I don't know if I missed anything that like maybe somebody mentioned something other than the one thing that I do know that they had said, which is like, okay, that's the big thing that you announce or do in this 3 hour edition of the pre-show, is that Joe Tessitore, actually, I don't remember. He is going to be starting on the Raw announced team on September 2nd in Denver, I believe. And Michael Cole is going to be going over to SmackDown. So they didn't specify anything beyond that, but they did say that. So that kind of gives me at least the impression that Pat McAfee's going to be going for college game day, college game day. And I think that he is probably not going to necessarily be joining Cole on SmackDown. My thought process is it's probably going to be Cole goes over to SmackDown and he works with Corey or Wade, and then whoever the other one is goes over to Raw and works with this Joe Tessitore. I don't think we're going to have Corey and Wade as the two-man team anymore. And I guess Pat McAfee's probably just going to take time away from the commentary team, and then eventually when he does come back, whether it's like after the game day thing or not, that he is just going to be part of a 3-man booth, kind of the way that they did for this episode, for this pay-per-view. I mean, not episode. It's episodic. I guess it counts. Yeah, I mean, Pat McAfee staying on Raw was something that I thought was going to be the case. And I thought that this guy was going to be going to SmackDown. Doesn't seem like it is. As far as I'm aware, nothing else happened on the pre-show, so I don't think we need to break anything else down, like that down. Pliskin says, loved his boxing calls for years. Hope it works out. So he's actually like solid, not like I mean, some of the other people that they've had in the past, they're not necessarily bad. They're just not great fits for WWE. Like Kevin Patrick is probably great with soccer stuff, or actually, I don't know. Is it soccer? Is it baseball? No, I think it's soccer that he does. And, you know, Jimmy Smith wasn't bad. And, you know, Adnan Virk sound like we always joke about, like, it sounds like he has a perfect voice for baseball and all. And so hopefully this is more of a Mauro Ranallo type of situation. At least I like Mauro Ranallo a lot. Drew Punk best of the night, according to Peter. Patrick says, I heard it before. I could see him working out as long as he does his homework. Yeah, he's real good. He's solid. He's not Adnan. Yeah, so pre-show out of the mix. As far as more, nothing else happened. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. But if I did, I'm sure other people would be talking about it too. So the pay-per-view started off with the performance of God Bless America and then Liar from Jelly Roll. And that's, you know, it's not the best version of God Bless America I've ever heard, but it's not my kind of scene anyway. And the Liar song is catchy enough. I'm not a country fan in the slightest bit, so anything that has a country flair to it immediately loses a lot of value for me. It's just like, no, I don't like country music. I don't like the twang. But there are songs that I admit, if you were to take the twang out of it, then I would like it. And I feel like this is one of those songs. Like if you just had somebody else sing it and it didn't have that kind of sound to it, you know, then I probably would end up liking it. But he did his musical performance there. He popped up later on in the night too. And it started off with the Women's World Championship match, Liv Morgan going up against Rhea Ripley. This was one that I had called ahead of time, saying that Liv Morgan is certainly going to retain her championship, because I just did not imagine that this was going to be when Rhea Ripley was going to win the championship. And look at that. I was right about that. Actually, I'm going to skip ahead to something that I normally would say at the end of this. Definitely won the predictions contest on the Fantasy League side of it this time. And that was not from this match. We all actually went with Liv Morgan, but there was a match a little bit later on that ended up being the case. But I had been flip-flopping a little bit ahead of time about how Liv Morgan was going to win this match. And that was something that for a long time I just assumed, okay, Dom's going to turn on Rhea, and that's going to lead into that. But then when we started to talk about this recently, we were about the whole Finn Balor element of it. It was more of, well, maybe Dom isn't going to turn and Finn Balor is going to do something. And then it's going to lead to, I believe I had mentioned it on the podcast. I don't think I mentioned it outside of it. Maybe it was off air, about Carlito and Dom against JD and Finn. And then you could even do like Dom and Rhea and Carlito against JD, Finn, and Liv. And then Damian Priest would be completely out of the mix and all. And we just didn't seem like that felt like right. But we were leaning more towards the idea of Finn Balor's got to be doing something here. Because it's weird that they would set up the idea of him taking the key for the hotel for Liv Morgan and a couple other little things along the way, just for him to be completely unrelated to this. Lo and behold, Finn Balor not related to this at all, at least not yet. And the way that this match ended up going down, for anybody who missed it, Rhea had, in kayfabe, I should specify, re-dislocated her shoulder and popped it back into place. So it was like part of the match, she's working on getting her shoulder worked on and all. So they had to go back and forth. I liked how Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley ended up booking this match together. And by the time we get to a steel chair being introduced, Liv Morgan had brought that in, and Dom stops Rhea from using it, saying, if you use that, you're going to get disqualified. You're not going to win the title. You can't win the title this way. Perfect way to transition into a few moments later when he puts it back into the ring, so that way Liv can hit the Oblivion on Rhea, and then that way that gives her an edge to score the pinfall. And Dom leaves with Liv. They kiss. They walked out together. Rhea's seething. And even though this didn't follow suit with the Finn Balor thing, later on we had something that happened in a different way that ended up, kind of making that seem worthwhile. So they do still have to kind of explain what's going on with the hotel key. I don't know if that's just going to be one of those things we're not supposed to be paying as much attention to, or if that is something that maybe they do have a rational explanation behind. That would be like, maybe... Actually, I don't know. Maybe she's getting double teamed as far as some of the, they went to Paris recently, didn't they? Maybe it's an Eiffel Tower joke in there somewhere. So after Rhea Ripley loses this, backstage they show Damian Priest is really pissed. He's, did anybody know anything about this? And all the other members of the Judgment Day act like they had not heard anything about this whatsoever. So they all claimed innocence, and we would come back to that a little bit later on. But I thought that this was the right decision. I think that Rhea is going to win that championship back, and she's probably going to win it back at Bad Blood. I'm very much looking at Bash in Berlin right now and thinking that's going to be a holdover pay-per-view. It's only, I think, 3 weeks away, if I remember correctly. It's towards the end of August, and it's not quite like the very last day of August, but I think it's actually it might be the last day of August. Now I'm thinking about it. It's going to take a while to get to Bad Blood, and they're going to do a pay-per-view in the meantime. But I don't know. I'm thinking Bash in Berlin is pretty much just like, well, you should be lucky to have this pay-per-view no matter what we give you. And it's going to be like tag team matches and rematches and things that don't really matter too much. So I think we're going to end up seeing, maybe if they do Rhea and Liv again here, maybe they could. But I could very much see like Priest and Rhea, and they would need another person though. I was gonna say Priest and Rhea against Dom and Liv, but you throw Finn Balor in there. I don't know. We'll come back to that topic another time there. In the meantime, let me check to see what's been going on in this chat. I would say Bayley Nye was the weakest. I guess maybe not exactly stinker matches, just weak wrestling during the match. Hell, I'm from Texas and I don't like country music. Most overrated genre. Now that everything is like a different genre, it's always like, well, this isn't rock, it's post-industrial, whatever. And I'm like, okay, there's like really, shouldn't there only be like 10 music genres? I think I had shown my music collection at some point on there. If I ever feel like just doing that and doing the screenshot, you'll see how ridiculous my music collection is. Not much country in that though, I can tell you that. For like 2 songs maybe. I think the best overall would be Cole Barrett on SmackDown and Sador and Graves. The Dom turned on Rhea when she popped her shoulder on the announcer's desk. This match was predictable, I guess, but still enjoyed it. Throughout the final, Oblivion on the chair looked great. Three-way Dom. Basher Berlin will probably be Bron versus Kaiser. Gunther versus Ilya. I still don't think that the Ilya thing's going to be as much of a thing as much as most other people do, but could be. Drew, Seth, Punk, Priest, Balor. Not sure about Cody. We'll come back around to them too. But I like the opening thing. I think that ended up being the way that they should have gone down. I think the Dom needs to stay a heel, and that's a good way to transition Rhea Ripley into a babyface territory. And Liv can hold the belt a little bit longer. Rhea can win it a little bit down the line. It's all good in the hood. Second match was the Intercontinental Championship match. Bron Breakker successfully beating Sami Zayn, and there's really not much to talk about here. It's just a match that happened, and Bron Breakker won the title, and I don't think it was any better or worse than what they had before, although I do still think he should have just won at Money in the Bank. I don't understand why they needed to do a second time around thing for this, because this isn't like so heavy of a storyline that, not that the Cody thing was the right decision necessarily anyway, but by the time that we got at the end of WrestleMania 40, it felt like it at least made sense. This just seems like it was for the sake of not doing it then and doing it now, and I don't know, maybe I would have done something else. So I'm glad Bron Breakker is the new champion. I think that this is a perfect championship for him at this point. I always really love when people actually move up the hierarchy, and it can kind of be like, I kind of refer to it as like the old Bret Hart rule of like, you win the tag titles, you win the Intercontinental or United States title, whatever. You win the Royal Rumble and you win the WrestleMania. Like, if you can do like that kind of those patterns, that's like my overall favorite. Of course, you don't have to do it exactly for everybody. But Bron Breakker winning the Intercontinental Championship starts off with a mid-card belt. Makes perfect sense for that. And I think he's going to be holding that at least into WrestleMania. I don't know if he'll retain at Mania, depending on who he's going up against. But that could be almost anybody at this point. I will put two names out there that I could see him fighting. I don't think it's going to be John Cena by any means. If I had to go ahead and guess right now what the future of Bron Breakker's title reign is going to be, he's going to beat a handful of people over the next couple of months, and around the Elimination Chamber time frame or so, he'll probably start a feud with either Sheamus or Ilya Dragunov. I think that Dragunov is going to be not the guy that beats him at WrestleMania, but I do think that Dragunov is going to win the Intercontinental Championship in 2025. And part of me kind of thinks that maybe it ends up being that Sheamus beats Breakker to get that IC title and check that off his list, and then Dragunov beats Sheamus. I don't know. Let's skip forward a couple months and see if I'm right, but that's my current prediction for that. So I'm glad Bron Breakker's champion. I still feel kind of disappointed in Sami Zayn's title reign, and I still think that Bron Breakker probably should have been the one that beat Gunther anyway, but I'll take it. So Peter's tossing out, Bron drops it to Orton, and then Cena can beat Orton at Mania. Cena's not won the Intercontinental Championship yet. That could be one of those things for him to want to check off on his bucket list too. So that's an interesting way to look about that. Loved the reaction they showed of his father and uncle. Was awesome. What was the reaction for it? I didn't hear it. I was out in the other room at the time that they showed him. Did they boo the Steiners, or did they cheer them? Or did they boo and cheer them at the same time? I kind of assume that that's probably going to be the case. So speaking of new champions, LA Knight defeated Logan Paul to win the United States Championship. LA Knight right now is currently on the press conference. No idea what he's saying. Clearly don't have earbuds in. So, yeah, well, I'm assuming he's saying yeah a lot. And the LA Knight thing, same situation. I'm glad that they had the title change hands. It was very long time in the making. I liked that they had set up the whole thing with the brass knuckles, because we know that that's Logan Paul's specialty, and I don't really care about Machine Gun Kelly, so it's not like that did anything for me, but it would have been nice if he would have been put through a table or something. And they had a good match too. I mean, Logan Paul's not had really a bad match at all, like in WWE. And the pre-match bell ring brawl type thing that they had, I don't know if that was necessary. It's fine. It's not like it took away anything, but didn't really do anything crazy for me. I enjoyed this. good enough match, good outcome. Logan Paul can move on to doing whatever else he does next, where the championship doesn't have to be factored in whatsoever. LA Knight gets a chance to show that he is, a mid-card champion. I'm a little bit worried that that's the highest peak that he's going to reach in his WWE career. But then again, look at how things have played out in the past. People like Christian, where like they're never going to win the world championship, and then he ends up winning the world title 2 times, I believe. And, sometimes you come back around to other ideas. Mark Henry won the world championship and all. So LA Knight, certainly not by any means a guarantee that this is his peak, but I'm at least glad that he can check this off on his list. He has won a proper championship in WWE, not just the NXT little stint that he had with the $1 million title. And I don't know what else to say more than that. I liked it. When I don't have much to say, it's usually because I'm either so flabbergasted in how bad something is, and I've repeated it a million times, like the Brock Lesnar rule and all, or it's a matter of me just being like, well, I liked it, it's good enough, and I don't know what else to say other than that. Galen's in the chat. I like Bad Bunny in the ring more than Logan Paul. I like Logan Paul better in the ring, but out of the ring is a different story. I don't think we see Logan for a while. Let this controversy pass over. I mean, Bastion Berlin's coming up next, and that's certainly not going to be something that they will bother to put him on. Bad Blood, I don't think that they'll bother to put him on either. And then the next real big pay-per-view after that, I guess, would be Survivor Series. Or no, Crown Jewel comes before that. Right? Yeah. I don't know why I'm looking to the left. It's if my phone is going to tell me otherwise. I'm pretty sure that Crown Jewel. So I think we probably will end up seeing him at Crown Jewel more than at Survivor Series. Survivor Series is going to be Bloodline Civil War. So, why bother to have Logan Paul there? Crown Jewel starts a feud with whoever the fuck. I don't know, Baron Corbin or somebody. Probably not Baron Corbin. Maybe it's Bad Bunny. And LA Knight in the meantime can hold his United States Championship. And if you want to know my prediction for who's going to be holding that next, it's going to be Carmelo Hayes. That is my go-to for who's going to win that title after this. But thumbs up on the LA Knight title win. Then we had Nia Jax versus Bayley for the WWE Women's Championship. And that was one of those matches that we were talking about ahead of time. The idea of the Money in the Bank cash in. And up until the briefcase had gotten ruined, I was very much, okay, Tiffany Stratton's going to cash in. She's going to pin Bayley either during the match, or Bayley will retain and Nia will beat her up afterward, and then Stratton will do that. Once they screwed up the briefcase, then it became a situation where they needed to have the custom briefcase, so they have to actually have her wait a little bit before that. Briefcase looks good. I'm a fan of it. And they teased it still, though, that she came out during the match and ended up leading into a distraction. The bell didn't ring, so she still has her Money in the Bank briefcase still in play. But that little tease is going to be something that they're going to build on for sure for the future. They being Nia and Tiffany, they're going to be a team for a little bit. It seems like they're going to feud a little bit with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Have the two big girls against each other, have the two bratty, snotty girls against each other. And Bayley, in the meantime, just goes and does something else. And, we've got our women's tag title situation on SmackDown too. So that's going to keep Bianca and Jade and possibly Naomi busy while they deal with the Unholy Union and with, what's her name? Blair Davenport. So I don't know when Charlotte Flair's coming back, but whenever Charlotte Flair comes back, she's winning the title back. And then it's a matter of Tiffany Stratton cashing in or not, or, however this plays out. But I still think that we're on the same course here. And I'm glad that Bayley is no longer the champion, because I was very underwhelmed with her as champion. Not necessarily her fault. They didn't really do anything with her. But then again, I haven't really been super enamored with Bayley's character for the past bunch of years either. She really dropped off a lot of steam once she ended up going to the main roster. And I never liked heel Bayley really much at all. I don't like this version of Bayley as much as I liked the Hugger Bayley back in the day. So you don't give her a whole lot of things to work with, and her character's kind of on the sidelines and all. and move on. Nia's not necessarily going to be a much, much, much better champion in my mind, but at least I think she's going to be a little bit more interesting. So, I like I said, I like Nia's new crown, and good for Nia. Like, she's been way better this run, so good for her. Over under on when Charlotte wins that championship. What would the over under be that she wins it by? Is there anything after Bad Blood that isn't like No Mercy or something? Let's say over under that she wins it by Crown Jewel. You calculate the numbers. I don't know. That led to a situation with the next setup of the singles matches, because everything was a singles match here. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. Special guest referee was Seth Rollins, getting all bedazzled with his referee outfit. And another solid match with, I believe, the right outcome. You might disagree. Mileage may vary, but I figured this had to be how this would end up playing out. It's too tempting to have a special guest referee get interference with the two people and then have the heel be able to be the one that takes advantage of that. Because the babyface one, it seems like it's a tainted victory. At least when the heel does it, you've got an excuse that you don't necessarily have to be like, oh, you want a proper match against so-and-so. And CM Punk now has all that more of a reason to be upset with Seth Rollins. So that continues their feud going forward. And I don't think that they're going to go straight into this by any means. I think that more than likely they're going to drag this out. Not drag this out necessarily. They're going to stretch this until WrestleMania. I do still think it's going to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at WrestleMania. Now, it doesn't have to be. And they could do these matches in the next few months. And by the time we get around to the Royal Rumble, set up new opponents for everybody. Maybe it's like Rollins against Gunther at Mania or something. But I am leaning way more towards Punk and Rollins at Mania. McIntyre does something else, whatever that might be. And we'll come back around to Gunther in a minute. But the amount of mileage that they've gotten out of this bracelet with Larry's name on it and all. I had multiple people asking me, friends of mine being like, what's up to do with the bracelet? Because they're watching the pay-per-views and not watching the week-to-week and all. But yeah, good match with the perfect outcome, I think. So I don't know much more to break down other than that. If they do have another match at the next pay-per-view, I think the Punk's going to win. Whether that's at Bad Blood or if it's in the meantime at Bash in Berlin. If they do want to make Bash in Berlin at least seem like it's worthwhile, then maybe they'll do that there. Maybe we'll get like Punk and McIntyre 2 at Bash in Berlin, and then it'll end with Bad Blood. Maybe what they will end up doing. Frankie's suggesting a triple threat. Punk wins to end the feud at Bad Blood. Maybe we do come around to that. I definitely want AJ Lee to come back. I want to see her in action. After that was Gunther winning the World Heavyweight Championship from Damian Priest during, I don't know. It was a really good match, I thought. And the finale of it being Finn Balor coming out and putting Gunther's leg on the ropes to make sure that he broke up a pinfall and continuing to interfere with the match and screw over Damian Priest. So this is where we come back around to the thing we were talking about at the beginning of this, where Dominic Mysterio did do the thing where he turned on Rhea instead of Finn, and now Finn is turning on Damian. So if that has anything to do with the hotel key, it's a little bit weird. It shouldn't, but they pulled the trigger on the split of the Judgment Day, and realistically, this is all that they needed to do. Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest needed to be the baby faces coming out of this, and they are the only ones that should be baby faces at this point. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think the Judgment Day needs to be the Judgment Day anymore. Maybe they can continue, and maybe it can be Finn Balor leading the group, and then it's the Judgment Day is Finn Balor and JD McDonough, and maybe they keep everybody else involved. But I'd be okay with Dom and Liv not being in the Judgment Day Dom not being in the Judgment Day anymore, and Liv not being in there. Maybe they put Liv in there, though. I mean, there's some options to play around with this, but I am down to see Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. I'm glad that they're not going to stretch that out until WrestleMania, because I don't think that they would have had the legs for that. So that's a match that you can do at Bash in Berlin for sure. And I don't think that that's going to necessitate something big at Bad Blood, because that's not going to be the Hell in a Cell match by any means. But the big thing at Bash in Berlin could be the tag match thing that I was talking about. Maybe we get some kind of Judgment Day Civil War instead or something. Or maybe we just get Priest versus Balor at that show. And then Priest is kind of up in the air. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with him. Maybe he's the guy that's fighting Braun Breaker at WrestleMania, for all I know. Shouldn't be fighting Gunther at Mania, because I don't think that it's worth it to go back around at somebody who just beat him for the championship at all. But for all we know, maybe they did have them come back around. I don't know. But Gunther running the championship, major thumbs up. He has lost a lot of momentum in the past couple of months, and that's on WWE and just not doing fuck all with him for the most part. So I'm disappointed in that we're not getting Gunther as like top of the line, uber unstoppable Gunther as champion. But he's Gunther, so he's great. He's going to have a good title reign unless something wacky happens, like an injury or something. And I'm assuming that he's holding that title at the very least until WrestleMania. At least then, maybe not necessarily even dropping it there, though. And I could see him retaining over Brock Lesnar. I could see him retaining over John Cena. I could see him losing to John Cena if they want to go in that direction. But I don't know if there's anybody other than John Cena that they could book for Gunther at Mania that I could see beating Gunther. Brock maybe, but I don't think that they're going to want to put a championship on Brock to do that. That's if Brock returns at all. And if he returns in time for Mania and all that too. So Priest didn't tap out, but he lost by submission here. So that's another way for them to do a rematch at Bash in Berlin if they want to go in that direction, or if they want to stretch that out into Bad Blood or something, they could do that too. In any fashion, I liked Gunther doing this. So I like the way that Priest lost the championship. Down for him against Balor. Thumbs up all around. After that, we had the Awesome Truth announcing the attendance record, getting into a little scuffle with A-Town Down Under, and Jelly Roll getting involved. And it's just one of those segments. It's nothing important. Finally, we have Cody Rhodes against Solo Sikoa for the Bloodline Rules match. Undisputed WWE Championship on the line. And this was mini WrestleMania and not as good. With that being said, WrestleMania is one of those epic things that like will go down in history as one of the biggest and best moments that they've ever had in this company's history. So if this would have came first, oh my God, of course everybody would have gone crazy for it. And people are still going to go crazy for part of it because, you know, when push came to shove, when it came to who was going to be involved in the Bloodline Rules thing, we had one last, I guess you could say, little bit of an entrance with Pharaoh. He didn't fully come out because, you know, scared from the fireworks and stuff. But Arn Anderson popped up without a gun. He's not armed, Anderson. And he already said, you know, you got some allies going to help you out tonight. Bloodline gets involved. We got Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. They're getting involved. And Kevin Owens and Randy Orton come out to help out a little bit. Jacob Fatu comes out. And to balance out Jacob Fatu, not Jimmy, not Jay, not Sami, it's Roman Reigns. He's wearing this OTC shirt, original tribal chief. And he hits a Superman punch and a spear on Solo. Allows Cody to pin him. Just gives him a little nod. Fully turns babyface in that moment, for anybody that's wondering. And that's our next phase of the Bloodline Civil War. So I don't think Bash in Berlin is going to see Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns. I think that that's probably going to be at Bad Blood. Could be. I mean, that's certainly a huge reason to have Bash in Berlin would be Gunther's going in as champion, and we have Roman Reigns is back, and he's going up against Solo for the first time, and, you know, they could play into that quite a bit. But as I said before, I expect this to be like Cody and Roman against Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa or something. And I think maybe they keep it at that. Maybe they don't do more like 4-on-4, because then you're getting a little too close to the War Games match, and you need to like build to that. Maybe it's Cody against Jacob Fatu and Roman and them get involved. I don't know. But I like that Roman's back. I like that he turned on the Solo Sikoa side of it rather than doing some kind of a tease with the Cody thing, because I just did not think that was worth it to do like a fake tease on that front. And I'm not at all surprised that The Rock wasn't involved in this. I didn't think that he would be there, at least with like, if it's Roman, it's not going to be Roman and Rock at the same time. So good match. Again, not as good as the WrestleMania one, but it's hard to capture that same magic. And yeah, I liked it. I think that this is the right direction to go. I'm excited to see that Survivor Series match eventually, and I hope that they continue to make all these right decisions. So that's what I got for the pay-per-view. Nothing else I think that really was out there for me to talk about. So any last thoughts in the super chat kind of region or whatever? I'm going to try to read any of those if I end up having them on the front. In the meantime, yes, I did win the fantasy booking, so we will come back around to that later on and, kind of talk about some moves that we do. I'm dropping my glasses here. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I don't remember what the rules are at this point of what Callum had for, like, how many I've won compared to how many Rob and Callum have won are the predictions and what that means for the future and all. By the time we get around to the next podcast, we'll probably have sorted that all out, and then Callum can fill everybody in on that a little bit better. So we'll talk about that in due time. Keep in mind all the Smark Play stuff that I had mentioned before. Show your support. Hit the like button on this video. Ring that notification bell for email alerts of the next Pay-Per-Viewpoint post shows or the next live editions. It might not necessarily be the Pay-Per-Viewpoint stuff. Might do something else live in the meantime. And make sure that you join the different tiers that are over on Patreon and all, like the Darkcast tier. Make sure that you support fanboysanonymous.com as well, and go to all the other things that you can see on the link tree at amangotree.com, whether it's Fanboys or Smark Out Moment or just my personal Tony Mango stuff that's out there. Any kind of followers and stuff, greatly appreciated. It's a phrase that I keep using a lot. It's greatly appreciated, but it is. That's why I say it. So keep all that in mind, and yeah. All right. Well, I'm not seeing anything else. So thanks for listening. Tell us what you thought about SummerSlam 2024 and anything else you want to chat about. Chat it up in the Discord or the comments or the pages on smarkoutmoment.com. And we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out Moment. I'm being counted out.